As far as like Royal Rangers, I haven't started yet, just telling you. God's really been speaking to me about Rangers needs to get started up here pretty soon, so I'll be notifying all of those who have children that are involved. We'll be starting up here very soon. But before we start, I just want to pray, because I don't want this to be, just about me speaking personal opinion or whatever, you know what I mean? Yeah. I just want to speak what the Lord would have me speak. So I'm going to pray real quick. Right, dear Heavenly Father, I just come before you right now, God. I just ask, Lord Jesus, that you would put the words in my mouth, Lord, that you want me to speak, God. Yes. Lord, help me to convey what it is I'm trying to say, Lord Jesus, that the people would understand and receive it, Lord. And God, I pray that most of all that your name would be glorified. In Jesus' name, yes. Amen. Amen. All right. I don't know why I get nervous talking in front of adults, but I can talk in front of children. No problem. If I seem a little nervous, it's because I am. All right. As most of you know, I went through a battle with COVID-19 towards the end of last year. I personally believe it almost took my life, and I'm just being real with you guys. I was going to be stubborn about it when I was starting to feel really, really bad. And I was just going to try to tell myself, oh, I'm just going to tough it out a couple more days. And I'll get to that part of the testimony. And thank the Lord I listened to my wife, because I believe if I hadn't listened to her, I wouldn't be standing here right now. Mm-hmm. You guys would have been having my celebration of life, or whatever it is that she would have decided to do. But anyways, many of you, I communicated through text messages and stuff, and I'm going to start out the testimony with this. Revival fire is at our front doors. I've told many of you that already. Okay? And I know some of you are going to say, well, okay, brother, what does that have to do with your testimony? I'll get to that, because I want to interconnect the dots for you here. Those torches of revival, that's the way I see it. There's torches that each one of us is supposed to pick up and grab and start going with. Okay? So just keep that statement in mind. All right? September, this is like I said, my bout with COVID started in November. But I feel that this testimony actually started in September. I told Pastor Ken last week, I don't know if he was quite catching what I was telling him. Okay? So anyways, here we go. September, the Lord had been speaking to me about coming to the church to come pray. And I'm sitting here thinking, okay, well, I can pray from home. I can pray at home. But then it just kept getting stronger. You need to go to the church and pray. And pray for services and pray for your pastor. And I kept thinking, okay, is this me? Or, because normally, I don't normally like to get up super, super early to do anything.
Oh, yeah, brother.
And I really felt that the Lord was speaking to me about coming here at 6:30 in the mornings on Sunday. And, and anything I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not saying this to pat myself on the back or anything like that, okay? So I kept getting that. It was getting stronger and stronger. So I asked Pastor about it, and I go, hey, Pastor, would it be all right if I come to the Ranger Room on Sundays and pray in the morning before service? And he's like, sure. That was our Bible study, so took that as the green light. So, let me see here. October? All right. So we're in October already. That was in September. In October the 10th. And I've been coming on Sundays ever since I'd asked him. It was like at the end of September, I believe. So October the 10th, we took the offering for the Jewish people, and most of you remember, to help them to return to Israel. Okay? And I was thinking God was going to have me come pray here at the church just until about the 31st, because I thought in my mind, and this was something that I had done with my family. I don't want you guys to think I'm telling you need to do this. But I had really been praying and stuff about the celebration of Halloween in any form. And I know some of you are going to say, oh, brother, we don't celebrate Halloween. Yeah, I get that. But a lot of people say, well, we can rename it something else and celebrate it and still do the things that they do, and still do it. But for me, like I'm telling you, this is just for me personally, for me and my family. The Lord, I believe, specifically told me not to celebrate in any way, shape, or form. No handing out candy, no putting out pumpkins and scary decorations on the house, and And my kids, they all agreed. They said, "God, we don't even care about this." And I told them, if you guys want candy that bad, I'll take you to the store and buy you candy for it. Okay? So, and I was thinking, after I spoke with the Lord about that the 31st, this is where the prayer was going to end. But while I was in the hospital, and I believe it was Peggy that talked to Allison, she had said that the Lord was preparing me from that time, I guess, when he was wanting me to pray. See, I was thinking it was for something else. But the Lord was actually preparing me for the fight that was coming. Yeah. It was in prayer. And I was thinking, because God doesn't always show us the complete entire plan of what's going to happen. Sometimes he'll give you little piece by piece. See, and I already made this conclusion in my own mind that the 31st, that's going to end right there. Okay. And then, we'll go back to normal. Well, normal, as you can tell, normal wasn't normal anymore. Yeah. So on November the 5th, okay, we're jumping to November, 5th to the 12th, we had the 10-10-10 revival services in Hanford. And many of you went, Brother Randy, Pastor, Maria, and a few other people were there, Sylvia. The power of God was moving in those services. Two of my boys, the Lord spoke directly to them. They were in knowledge. Yeah? So we went through all of the tent services. Okay, so November, and I decided at that point that the Lord wanted me to continue. So November, the beginning of November, still coming in Sunday AM, praying. And I didn't know why. It's just, I got to keep praying for the services, the pastor, and everybody here. And kept going. Well, November 15th rolls around. My wife starts having what we thought were the seasonal allergy symptoms, because she normally gets those around this time. And I tend to get a little bit of it too. Well, that was on a Monday. Tuesday, she said she was starting to feel like they were getting worse, so she went and got tested, got a rapid test, negative. So, okay. Wednesday, starting to feel a little bit worse. And on the Wednesday, when I was at work, which was about 3 o'clock, we were getting about half an hour before we clocked out, I remember I was walking towards the shop where I work at. And I kind of leaned against one of the little electric utility carts that we use. And the strange feeling came over me, like something had just grabbed all the energy out of my body and just yanked it out. And I just kind of sat there, leaned against the electric vehicle, and I was like, what in the world? And one of my coworkers looked at me, he's like, Patrick, are you all right? I go, I just feel like all my energy just got pulled out of my body. And it was the strangest feeling. He's like, well, he goes, maybe just go home and take a hot shower, relax, or whatever. Well, she decided that she was going to go to a different medical provider, my wife, got a standard test, because she went in there to get a rapid test, and really that came back negative. But the care provider said, you know what, with the symptoms that you're having, we're going to go ahead and give you a standard test. Well, it was going to be a couple of days before she got the results. Well, by that evening on that Wednesday, I started feeling really, really bad. I felt like I was starting to get a light fever. So I called up my supervisor and I was like, hey, I'm going to go ahead and pull myself off the work schedule. I'm not feeling good. My wife's starting to have some symptoms that we thought were allergies. She's tested, came back negative. He's like, all right, so we have a protocol. You know what we have to do at work. They notify HR and all the protocols that they got to go through. So Thursday I go, I get tested. They just gave me a standard test is what they did. I got the standard test, and they went ahead and immediately started me on the medications that most people try to get, but they won't give you. Most doctors will not prescribe you because they just don't want to. I don't know what the deal is. So I was prescribed 6 different medications. Well, I took the medications, and by almost the end of the next day, because my throat was already starting to swell up and hurt, by the end of the next day it was gone. So I'm like, oh, cool. These medications are working. Great. And like I said, these are very coveted medications that most people cannot get unless you go to a specific care provider that gives them to you. So I got these, and then, she's like telling me, you're going to feel certain days still. And, he told me days 7 through, what do you say, 7 through 10, Allison? That's usually when I call it the vortex, when you start feeling the symptoms hit you the hardest. So I'm sitting there going through it. let's see here. I gotta go through my notes here. Oh, second page ready. Okay. So, while I was taking these medications, Allison belongs to most of you know, we homeschool our kids, and her homeschool group was telling her and me, whatever you do not let them give you remdesivir. Now remember that name, remdesivir. That's a medication that a lot of medical professionals now are starting to say is actually causing just as much damage to people's bodies as the COVID, because it shuts people's organs down if you take too much of it, or, you know what I mean, if they just give you it and you can't handle it. It's specifically known to shut people's kidneys down. So I kept that in mind. Okay, no remdesivir. Going through, well, the day before Thanksgiving, I noticed my breathing was starting to get a little more difficult. So we called up the care provider that I'd originally gotten the medication from, went back in, and I told him what was going on. He was like, okay, well, what we're going to do, we're going to give you, put you on home oxygen. So I'm like, okay, this should help you, and, you know, started it out at a few liters of oxygen and doing that. Well, earlier that week, as most of you know, if you've had pneumonia, when you start coughing up, you tend to get a little bit of blood in what you're coughing up. So I noticed it was just staying steady, you know, just really, really light. Wasn't really doing anything, changing in color. Well, that after Thanksgiving, we had that little weekend right after that, and got up Saturday morning, you know, like I normally did. Of course, I had my oxygen on. Went up to the bathroom, you know, you cough to clear out your lungs, and kind of made me jump. Because instead of it just being really light, I had heavy blood coming out. I'm like, oh no, this isn't supposed to be happening. So I went up, I woke my wife up. I was like, Allison, I got heavy blood when I'm coughing up now. And during that time, I kind of was getting this feeling like the spirit was pulling away. Now, when I say pulling away, I'm talking about as in getting ready to leave this earth. But I wasn't telling her that. I was just thinking, I'm going to tough this out, and I'll be over it here. Well, I noticed I was getting weaker and weaker, and then she looked me in the eyes and she said, I'm taking you to the hospital. And I'm sitting here thinking, that's when I was talking about waiting a couple of days. I'll just tough it out till Monday. I'm going to tough it out, and I'm just going to tell her no. But then I really felt that the Lord had told me, no, you need to listen to your wife. Okay? And my own care provider, going back to when I got the oxygen, had specifically told me, if I was you and I feel like I need to go into the hospital, he goes, I won't say any names of the hospitals, but you'll figure out what I'm talking about.
Don't go to Quiroz.
Don't go to Quiroz. He said, if I was you, I would go to Hanford or go to Selma. He goes, you can go to Tulare if you want. He goes, but if it was me, I would go to Hanford or I would go to Selma. So she looks at me and she's like, which hospital do you want me to take you to because you're going in? I go, you know what? I sat there and thought about it for a second. We just had revival in Hanford. The Spirit of God is on that town because there was a lot of things spoken over that town. And you're going to see Hanford transformed, by the way, in an amazing way. And it's going to spread out here. But that's a whole other story. So I was like, you know what? Take me to Hanford. Okay? I get dressed, get cleaned up, load up some things in the bag, and off we go in the van down 198 to Hanford to Adventist Healthcare. I was admitted on November the 27th, which is that Saturday after Thanksgiving. Of course, you know, you go into the ER. What are you here for? Well, he's got COVID. Okay. People had been waiting in there who knows how long. I was immediately taken off into an isolation room. Me and an elderly gentleman, and we were sitting there and giving them our information because they take it separately away from people that are in there for other reasons. And then they take you back to a holding room before they take you up to the COVID unit. So I'm sitting in the holding room, and you know, they make you go take these x-rays of your lungs. It's like, I'm already running a fever, I'm shivering and shaking in there. And then you got that x-ray tube thing, whatever they call that, the MRI, what is that called? And it's about 40 degrees in there. They want you to lay on this metal table, and then they're going to slide you in there, and they're like, we need you to sit still. Okay, I'm already shaking and you're putting me on an ice cold table and you want me to sit still and hold still as you speak me this tube and then back me up. Well, they had to do a couple of tries and they finally got it. So, as I was going back to my holding room, 2 nurses walk in, they're like, all right, we're here to take you up to the COVID unit. I'm like, all right. And they're like, do you want to go on the gurney or do you want to go on the wheelchair? And well, I walked in here, got up and walked, sat down on the chair over here. So I'm pretty sure I could go in the wheelchair. And then, of course, they started introducing themselves. And this is where I met my nurse, Jeff. And yes, his name was Jeff. I know some of the younger kids are going to know what I'm talking about. Dominic's over laughing. All right. So, anyways, he introduces and says, hey, I'm your COVID specialist nurse. I'm going to be helping take care of you. He goes, would you like me to put your name on the registry to have the different people call and come and pray with you on the teleconference? I was like, sure. Put my name on there. So I get into the room. Now, remember the name of that medication I told you about earlier? I had a doctor walk in, and she walks in, and of course my nurse, Jeff, was sitting there, and he was talking to me about, treatments and all this and that they do. And she's like, Mr. Quiroz, I need to talk to you. I'm like, sure. She goes, we need to put you on remdesivir. And of course, that goes, my body just kind of went a little bit numb. Well, what do you mean that remdesivir? She's like, that's what we need to put you on. I go, well, can't you put me on the stuff that I already had? Just, the dosage. She's like, your body's we've already done that. They gave you what they could give you. She's like, this is going to be probably your last shot. And you need to do this. So I told her, okay, well, give me a few minutes, a couple minutes. I need to sit here and think about this. And while I was down in that holding room, the nurse, they told me, he's like, if you ever need prayer, let me know. I'll come pray with you. So I don't know how many of you ever had a nurse tell you that in the hospital. So I told the doctor, hey, can you give me a couple minutes? The nurse was going to walk. I said, Jeff, can you hold up a minute? And I go, he's like, sure. So I need you to pray with me. I got a decision to make. He's like, yeah. He goes, I'm going to pray with you. He goes, but you got to understand. He goes, I've seen people that have refused it. Many of them stayed here because they refused to take it up to 3 months. He goes, and many of them, he goes, don't walk out here again. He goes, I'm not trying to scare you into taking it. He goes, I'm going to be honest with you. He goes, I'm just telling you what I've seen. He goes, but I am going to pray with you. And I'm over here thinking, he's going to stand, far away, in some good Presbyterian style prayer, for 2 minutes, and he'll be out. He comes over, lays his hands on me. Okay. And he starts rebuking the spirit of infirmity and COVID-19 in the name of Jesus. I'm like, all right. You got a believer here. So he's praying with me. And he walked out of the room. And that was when I started talking to the Lord. I said, Lord, I need you to tell me what to do. And, in my mind, I was hearing all these voices of panic and stuff. I knew my wife was going to start crying when I told her. And all these, I was praying to the Lord, and I felt His presence in the room. And, He knew what I was, of course, the Lord knows what you're feeling and stuff. And I told him, Lord, what do I do? And he told me, he's like, son, he goes, those voices of the panic about that remdesivir, he goes, that's not of me. He goes, that's the fear of man. And he goes, and I'm like, okay. He said, and I clearly heard him say, he's like, son, I need you to take my hand and trust me. Okay? And my nurse had prayed, he goes, many times the Lord, he goes, you'll find when you're going through something, he goes, the Lord is not going to walk you through the way you think He's supposed to do it. Okay? So I had to do it in a way that was defying the logic of man, saying, don't take this. And instead the Lord's like, take my hand, I'm going to walk you right through this. Okay? So he told me just to trust Him. He goes, I won't leave you, I won't forsake you, and I will be with you the entire time. Don't worry. So by faith, I stuck my hand out like this. I said, Lord, I'm going to take your hand. I could literally, physically feel something, like a hand. I was holding it like this. Okay? I know some of you are thinking, oh man, this guy's crazy. But I'm telling you what, God I felt his presence. Like, Pastor, in case you're sitting right here in front of me, okay? His presence was more real to me than them standing in front of me, sitting in front of me right now. That's how strong the presence of God was. More real than that. Okay? So, I called Allison, of course. I told her and let her know. And of course, she was crying. But I told her, you know what? I have peace about this. I mean, when the Lord told me all this, I had a peace in the room. And it was literally like a peace you could touch. The whole room filled with peace. Okay, so I'm in the hospital now, in my room. Of course, not too far after that, they gave me the remdesivir. And I'll be honest with you, that is a very weird sensation that medication gives you when it goes into your vein. It like turns you ice cold, like your vein. It is a really weird sensation. And I told the nurse, I go, is that supposed to do that? She goes, yes, it does that. She goes, and then it goes away. So I'm sitting in the room. I'd already, of course, I've been in there. And on one of the nights, I could only lay on my right side, or they would tell you, they constantly wanted you to lay flat on your belly, which ever since I've been a little kid, I've not been able to sleep like that. So I can kind of do a 3/4 turn, or 1/3 turn, whatever you call it, or lay on either one of my sides. Well, I noticed when I lay on my left side, I guess it was a lung congestion, pneumonia, it was hard to breathe. So I would mostly lay on the right side, or somewhat on my stomach. And well, this one night, I had decided, you know what, I'm tired of laying on this side, my muscles are tired, I need to roll over. I lay on my left side, so I'm just going to take a quick rest, and then I'll roll back over. Well, apparently I fell asleep. Well, as I fell asleep, I woke up to this, it literally felt like a dirty blanket, like it was hot, and it was smashed against my face. And I could not breathe. You talk about going from sleep to wide awake in a split second. That is exactly what happened. I sat up in the bed. I'm like, I can't breathe. I can't breathe. I'll start to panic. And I did the first thing I was like, Jesus, help me. I can't breathe. Well, I sat up on the edge of my bed. And as I did that, I felt someone sit next to me. Same Lord that died at Quiroz. Yes, amen. The same one that rose people from the dead. I felt him sit next to me. Amen. And he said, Patrick, he goes, calm down. He goes, the peace felt like he said, peace filled the room. And then he said, remember your training that the nurse gave you when you started having difficulty breathing. I could feel his presence, and before I knew it, within 3 minutes, I mean, like a peace, like nothing I've ever felt before was in the room, and I was breathing fine. The nurse that was on at night, because of course she would check on me several times a night, she was getting ready to go off because day shift was coming in, and I told her, I go, hey, it's actually after a little one in the morning. I called my wife to let her know she was praying at that time. I told the nurse, I go, I had this feeling that I could not breathe, and I told her the time, and she kind of stopped. And she turned around and looked at me, and she's like, at what time? And I told her. And she was like, she sat there for a moment, just quiet. And she's like, you're not going to believe this. She goes, but every other room on the COVID unit, the alarms went off, requesting nurses because they couldn't breathe. She goes, and as soon as we got done with those other rooms, the other room alarms started going off. People saying they couldn't breathe. So don't sit there and tell me that this disease is just something that naturally occurs. That's a coordinated demonic attack against all the people. Yes. That's right. For it to happen right at the same time. So, and she was just kind of shocked. And I told her, and, she had, of course, had to take off. And as I said in the room, I'll listen to pastors' messages. I go back on YouTube, listen. During the Hanford tent revivals, I had made friends with one of the pastors from the Hanford PCG church. And, he is texted me, let me know he was praying for me. And I was watching their online services on Wednesday and on Sunday, Sunday nights, because I let them know I was going in there, to be admitted. And, one of the times while I was there, I was laying in my bed and I was just getting up, and I heard Pastor Phil preaching on divine healing. I heard his voice completely like in the room, just like surround sound, preaching on divine healing. Another time I was in there, you guys remember, most of you know Manuel McGregor. He sings that song, "There's Power in the Name of Jesus." I woke up to that, just hearing his voice singing in there. And the doctors, they would come in, of course they took my x-rays. They had this mobile thing that they'd make you sit up in the chair and they'd x-ray your lungs. Doctor comes in and he's like, oh, he goes, you could be here quite a long time. And, of course they give you according to what they see, they always give you that report. And by the time, the third time he'd come in, kept looking at me, he looked at the x-ray, flipped over, looked at the old x-ray. He's like, well, he goes, you could be out of here, this and this amount of time. Well, the last time I saw him, he comes in and he's I could tell, he had this look of shock on his face. He's like, can you actually get up and walk on your own? I'm like, yeah, well, I've been doing it. He's looking at his x-rays, his paperwork, flipping through the pages like he's panicking. Are you sure you don't have any difficulty? I'm like, no. I go, well, I got people praying for me. So, and he was looking at it, and he's like, I know I told you, a certain amount of time. He goes, but it looks like you could, it looks like you could be out maybe by next week, or maybe this weekend. He goes, I don't even know anymore. And he just walked out. So, he walked out, and I never saw him after that. And that was, a testimony of what God can do. The nurses would come in, and they would say, they'd come in, and they would always talk to me, and, I would share with them about, I worked in the fire service for 14 years. And, sharing, we'd share stories, and they would always say, I don't know what it is about your room. All the rooms on this COVID floor, yours is different. He goes, there's one tried to say, your room's really clean. I'm like, well, yeah, clean, room service, or whatever you call that, housekeeping, they clean everybody's room. It's not just mine. Yeah. She's like, well, there's something different about your room. And I was able to talk to him. But you gotta remember, just pray for some of these nurses. Yeah. They're 25, almost 30 years old, and some of them are like on the verge of breaking down. There's this one I met from Fresno. She told me, I couldn't take it being just in one hospital anymore. She goes, I'm a mobile nurse. She goes, I go from hospital to hospital. She goes, I see people maybe 1 or 2 days and then move on to the next one. She goes, I don't know how much more of this I can take. 28 years old, and she's like on the verge of burnout. So they need a lot of prayer. And while I was in the room also, just one more thing, the Lord, which I was allowed to physically feel what, I don't know if it's physically or spiritually, I could feel the prayers of people from the church. I could see many of you praying. It was like a little window. God would show me this person's praying. This person's praying. Amen. And he also showed me the other rooms where I was at. People laying in their gurneys, and I knew exactly, this person's just down this way, this person's down this way. And he would have me start praying for them, because I could hear many of them, calling for help when they had my door open. And the Lord I told Allison, we need to start praying for these people, and we did. But, I'm going to close with this. While I was in there, and I shared this with Sister Sylvia, and this may be just a lesson, it's something the Lord was teaching me, but it might help one of you in here. Okay? He asked me a question. He's like, if everything you had, because he was speaking to me as far as Royal Ranger ministry, if all of your certificates were taken away, your titles were taken away, your certificates, your trainings, your medals and award rings, everything that you've earned over the years, your title, your work, your job at work, if that was all taken away, what would you and I look like? What would it look like if it was just you and Jesus? If everything you had that you thought you could present to the Lord, you know, as far as your accomplishments, you know, which you gotta understand, many of those things are good, you know, or advancing ourselves, trying to learn more about ministry, but that's not what it's about. When it comes down to it, it's about you and Jesus. If all your stuff, your titles, your position, your house, your car, if all that was taken away, what would you and Jesus look like? Okay? So, now I'm going to connect this up. The statement I made about the revival, I believe the enemy can see what's coming to our church and to many of the churches around here. Because you'll notice when we went through that attack with the COVID, think about how many of our department leaders got hit. Yeah. How many of our families, I mean, it hit a huge portion of our leadership team. But make your hearts ready. Think about where you're at with Jesus. You know? And like I said, if everything was taken away and it was just you and Jesus, what would it look like?